either anywhere. About us certainly comments that you. So the only time that I might recognize myself as Nigerian is if Nigeria makes it to the World Cup of soccer. And some stuff to me, and then I'm back to the. I was told I have about 15 minutes. And you might yes. Cool. So I think I'm back to the story may or may not be done. Okay, so the story starts. First of all, when we appreciate the story, you have to disconnect from your logic. Because most of the story doesn't make any logical sense. So the story is emotionally true, but logically not true. So the story is about a mythical place called Halifax. But it's mythical because this Halifax was mysteriously in Africa. Remember, you know what? So this mythical place called Halifax was in Africa. Back in the day, there were things like this. It was a jungle. Who knows who the king of the jungle is? Excellent. So there was no mayor of Halifax. There was mayor of Halifax, and it was allowed. So once upon a time, there was this chicken that was migrating to Halifax. The chicken often says that he was single and looking to mingle. And for some reason, the other chickens were not feeling this particular chicken. So the chicken thought, I heard this mythical place called Halifax has no chickens. So if I go to Halifax, by default, I'll be the sexiest chicken in all. Right? This is part of logic, right? So it was just pure logic. So he moved to Halifax. Every full moon there was a party. Every full moon there was a party in the Halifax. So the chicken went to a party and I can give you the condensed version because like usually takes 30 minutes, so so the chicken shows up at the party, dances, teaches everybody the chicken dance, and then just like Halifax of today, it's 3 a.m. in the morning, chicken's trying to go home, tries to go to Metro Transit. So the chicken's wondering what to do, but talks to the king. The king has a massive palace, lots of spare room. The king says, hey, you can come, you can chill out, you can sleep here in the morning, you can have breakfast, and then after that, probably like a transit will be running and you can take the bus home. The chicken says, no problem, he does that. So it's morning time. The chicken's having breakfast with the king, and the king looks at the chicken. I noticed that the chicken is not as bubbly as the way they are. So the king said, what happened? And the chicken said, I'm still single. And the king said, why you were single before you got here and you were happy? So why are you now still single like you were happy yesterday and you're not happy? Like, well, I was doing my chicken dance, and I noticed that all the other beautiful animals seem to be looking at your beautiful name. You've got the golden names. And then I noticed the beautiful feathers on the peacock. And I noticed they were looking at the peacock. And then I noticed the leopard with the spots, with the muscles, and I'm just this one chicken. So he said, I heard about this thing called cultural misappropriation. So maybe I should ask a question. So he asked the king, can I get permission that the next time you're doing, I can take some of the name and stick it on myself. And I want to get an extra stuff for the chicken. And the lawyer said, we never had a chicken here before. But if you feel that that's what you need to do to represent the chicken, like that. But I have more questions. Like, can I get some spots from the record? Can I get the feathers from the peacock? And the king said, you need to go check this out for you. And if they say it's good, you do it. So we checked, all of the community said it was good. If any of you know any lawyers, talk to me after, because the chicken is looking for a lawyer. The reason why the chicken is looking, I hope it's not logical. The reason why the chicken is looking for a lawyer is because the chicken invented this special glue that he called chicken glue. The chicken was also a chemist. So the chicken went to the dollar store, that we have, and bought some super glue. And then when he did the chemical analysis, he realized that they stole his formula. So that's why the chicken is looking for a lawyer, because he wants to get his exactly what we got. That's nothing to do with the storyline. But I'll bring that out there because emailing me and saying, do you know the lawyer Halifax? Okay, back to the story. So the chicken decides next week, I'm gonna come back to the chicken ever. By default, I'm going to chicken from the chicken ever. I'm gonna look majestic like the king in the name. I'm gonna have peacock feathers on. He said, you know what's gonna happen? The next morning, I'm not gonna be so happy. I will be smiling, but I'll be slightly confused. And the reason why I was slightly confused is because I was trying to decide which of these women that want to marry me did I think. That was what he thought was gonna happen. He was so confident. So the next thing is for me. There's no logic. The party is in this compound. It's an open space. But mysteriously, even though it's raining everywhere in Halifax, only within that compound there's no rain. Everybody was jamming, having fun, enjoying the sunlight, and mysteriously, it's raining everywhere else. The chicken took some time to try to get this, all the different things on their body. And while they were there, because it rained so much, there was lots of mud in the water. And the chicken didn't get a perfect reflection of, when you go to muddy water, and you try to look, it's not like a mirror, But the chicken was confident. There were a lot of things that the chicken might have been lacking, but confidence was not one of them. So he was confident that he was looking good. So he put all the stuff on from the different animals, destroyed the stuff he was finding. He knocked on the door. And then he knocked again. And so they opened up, they looked, and then slammed the door. And then they went back to parliament. What happened was back in the mythical city of Halifax, there were these beings called shapeshifters. And the shapeshifters were the notorious, what's the cool kids call it today? Party people. Which basically means they just wreck the parties. So the king had said, make sure you do not let shapeshifters in because there is a really party. They jump on the cake, they just do all this. I don't know, they look back in the spirit of Ubuntu, right? So when they looked at the chicken, with all that stuff started, they thought it was one of the shapeshifters. But the chicken had remembered that while he was angry with the king had really trusted him and showed him the secret passageway that the king would use in emergency to escape. So the chicken decided, while I'm going to sneak into this special thing and I'll jump into the party. So the party's going on. Stop because the chicken would jump into the middle of the party and they thought it was a shapeshifter. So they pick up this, what they thought was a shapeshifter, they throw this thing outside the door. It's a chicken, so they're able to fly to the street. That's those are the chickens, They toss really lovely. Okay? So they got to the other side, and have the chickens come. but it's raining. And this was the first formula of the chicken meal. It's not as good as the super meal today. Chicken is bigger than multiplied in everybody. But at that time, it was the first iteration. So it didn't work that way. So as the rain started pouring down, it started slowly washing off the stuff. The king had said, you know what? You need to pay attention because everybody's here except the chicken. So look up. So they keep looking like, oh, it's a shape shifter. They'll come back in a few minutes. So they come back and look again. The chicken tries one more time and knocks it again. Knocks it again. They let the chicken in because at this time, all the stuff had washed up. They bring the chicken in, they dry the chicken off, chicken parties. So then it's 3 a.m. in the morning, just like President Halifax, no metro traffic. So the kid's like, yeah, you can crash at my house again. He crashes out the house, next morning they're having breakfast. And the chicken has the same look they had out in the party. So the king said, let me guess, you're upset, pig is still singing. And he's like, yes, how did you know? But I was just here last month. It's the genius to figure this out. So then the king, I have a question. Why did you want to why did you want to pick up that? Why did you want to nothing's wrong? And the king said, and the chicken said, I just wanted people to love me. So at this point, the king gives advice to the chicken. This is where we have audience participation, it's also almost the end of this. So, what advice would you give the chicken of this? I'm not looking at you, but look at me. Anyway, who's got some advice if you want to? I don't want to pull you out and put your hand up if you want to give some advice to the chicken. You yourself? Anybody got more advice to the chicken? Love yourself first. Love yourself first. So basically, what both of you said was what the king said to the chicken. The king said to the chickens, you know, those who truly love you will love you for who you are. You don't have to try to pretend to be somebody else to be yourself. And that's it. Just be yourself. But if you're in the box, might be. Yeah, all right, thank you. Oh, there's only one small beginning that you can come out again to people. I love that. And faculty, we have the opportunity to in the faculty of education that American University. And the vice chair is located here in Chicago, which is part of the body, the unceded and ancestral territory that we become. It remains the home land of Native people. The territory is covered by a covenant of peace and friendship treaties, and they were signed between 1725 and 1779. And these treaties are affirmed by the Supreme Court of Canada that recognizes Aboriginal title. These are living agreements that establish the rules for ongoing treaty relations between the nations. And so I would like to acknowledge paying respect to the knowledge that's embedded here in the body
and by the Mi'kmaq custodians of the land and the waters, and to the elders past, present, and future. And me personally, I strive to draw wisdom and learn from the wisdom of First Nation lineage and also the Native traditions. And I see the land resources as an opportunity to think deeply about what this means for me as a first generation settler here. I acknowledge that colonialism exists, and I need to consider my participation in that current process. I would also invite John, who is a grad student at Mount State University, to continue the acknowledgements. I acknowledge the Mi'kmaq as the original stewards of the land and the historical and ongoing impacts of colonization and the statements of both indigenous people and African institutions. I also recognize the contributions of African institutions and distinct people with individual legacy in the region for 100 years. I would like to acknowledge that not all people came to these lands as migrants and settlers. Specifically, I wish to acknowledge those of us who have been evolution, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic trade and slavery. In support of my efforts to confront and supplant racism, I take tribute to those ancestors and ask them to understand. One of the longest around is long at this point. I would like to sing the very voice and sing. And so I invite those of you to stand. So we're going to sing along with the video. And I'll rejoice, sing, and I'll be sound. Song, of the faith that the darkness has all time. Let's march on to victory. It's one. Let us march on to victory. It's one. Let us march on to Okay, that's incredible. So that you have on your chair, you keep the hand. And then also we have a gorgeous little bookmark. It's called a little bit about and on the back the definition of Ubuntu. So any one of those things, but also you have with you a card. And we'd like you to consider setting some intentions for each of you.
often we come together when we are looking to gather knowledge from the community, but also because you're here as a collective, I'm sure you also make a contribution to this space. So this card is for you to keep, if you don't need to share it. But there is an opportunity if you want to give it to us as we proceed. So the front is setting intentions, so we might consider what kind of conversations or themes that you want to engage with tonight. And given that the title of this evening is centering the long-term pedagogy for systemic change, perhaps your intention is to be curious about what does it mean to have systemic change. Your intention would be, I want to get an active listener, or I want to know more about Ubuntu. I mean, you can certainly come up with your own intentions. And then also to consider what experiences you are bringing that you could share. And that could be your own experiences, your, you know, as an educator, or as a parent, or as a neighbor, or a community member. And then we want to jot down something in that space as well. There is a backside, which we're not going to look at the moment, besides there's no lady. So we just basically taking a few moments to set your attention to this evening. And jotting that down in the time that we need to do that, and we can do it as we move forward, because at this moment, I'm thinking about two speakers to these, lovely chairs up here. And we have Senator Dr. Warren Thomas Bernard, and please come up and meet. So come here with Dr. Warren and take it. We have our guest, Dr. Alicia Blackman. We're excited to be in this conversation, and I'm going to have to make it one paper, and they're going to lead you to speak. So I speak on our house. So, setting it up, the woman on the sky, that's what we do. Thank you so much, Dr. And I want to say, welcome to all of you. It's wonderful to see the state still. I have to admit, when I first came in, I saw so many chairs come up. And the conversations, very interesting to listen in on some conversations. Something like it would be really comfortable. This evening, keep in mind, one that comes to mind is a child of expression. I won't take a long time giving a file and when my grandson was on something told me to walk me out online. And so this lost. I'll just say this. Social media. I go social media for 50 years. And social media, we learn is we like it for a number of reasons. We still does the chicken, it's very large speaking. That's the challenge. And I love to I love to be. 2 years ago, I said, please. What I was invited to be a part of this conversation this evening. I just really, to say this. Let me tell you what, I thought you didn't have to make it. Given this not family issues to have. Like all this possible. I never cooked you. My reason. Continue this to be. I feel very blessed and honored to be able to leave different parts of my life into the world that I'm now. And through the conversation this evening, I think talking about the legal discovery
has been popular. And we will know the number of students. So I'm going to invite you to take your mind, I think we have a separate. Yes. Or you use the same. Oh. I have two mics. So you can introduce yourself, how are the audience going to see? Thank you so much, thank you, it is truly a pleasure, to be here. It is my second time in Halifax, in 2022, it was a very short trip about 4 days on the ground, now it's back to the US. And so this time I'm here as a visiting scholar at Pedagogy University. Thank you to Dr. Kisa and Dr. Lin. And also the Kisa here, thank you for that opportunity to be able to share this work. And just the collaboration with you, thank you so much for the investment, the work that you're doing in this community. And so, I'm a child of the descendant of Jamaican Maroon. And so, it was something that my great grandfather told me when I was young, and I held on to that. And so I was born in Jamaica, I was in New York City, lived in New York City for 25 years and 17 years in Orlando. The last 3 years in Orlando, Virginia. So that is a part of my journey. I'm currently an assistant professor at Ubuntu University. I'm also a mom. I've raised 6 children. Yes, there is 6 children and that's another story. That I see myself as a servant leader, doing this work in and out of community. And I also serve as the executive director of African Culture School for 16 years at the Saturday School in Humboldt, where we teach students to study abroad in Ethiopian Ghana. And so that's a part of the extended work in community that I do. And I just absolutely love teaching. I love children, I love serving my community, and I'm a professor in the last 6 years. I make it my duty to go out in the community and really collaborate with something around with the work that is happening in the community. I love the way we do it. It's so appealing. And even here we have the mother of 6 children. Repeated with PhD while racing. People use the term warrior, scholar, and working. And if you were speaking about, I think maybe a sense of why they are a warrior and scholar. But I think you could tell us why people call you a warrior. Now, what does that mean? How did we get such an awesome name? So, that started with an elder referring to me as a warrior scholar. So when I mentioned African Culture School, I noticed that I was a public school teacher and culture was not being taught in schools. And so I decided to open up my home and teach children on Saturday to 2 hours. It started with my 6, plus an addition, I had 50 children, then I went to 30 children on a Saturday, in my living room. I locked my tool, when use a patch people to extend the classroom, and I also connected with community members to be volunteers working in the school, on the Saturday school. And so that started the work that I was doing in the community. I just absolutely love to read and always, studying African culture and history and sharing it with others and writing about it. And so that elder, when he was taking my picture, he said, "Oh, or this scholar." I love it, and it sounds like it's still doing that. So tell us why it's so important to you that you get these connected community. How is your connecting community? Obviously, from a counselor, I can as a university. And as a life research, scholar, how does it really the community? Why does that happen? I think it was all the way back to my early years as a first-time grandmother. So my mom was she lived in the States, and my grandmother raised me from 3 years old. I was raised with my grandmother, and my grandmother was the community leader. She had a third grade education, but she was intentional about supporting the elders in the community and teaching them how to read. And so that was my first example. I remember in Jamaica we have the people, the pioneers. They would come from the region and they would, my grandmother would go in little fancy books, like tattered books, and they would borrow the books. And so that was my first example of community. And growing up in New York City, I saw examples of community in my family. Going to school in Harlem, there was another extension of community. And so when I was in graduate school, I had to write a grad statement, and I said, my work, what I would do with my doctoral degree is to serve my community. And so my community is extended globally because I do a lot of traveling internationally to collaborate and serve others in the community. Wonderful, thank you. I love the title of this one. I'm going through pedagogy. Becoming and working responsive educator. So, what's a bit about that? And I don't usually the questions I send to that's where they become, you know, and story solid. Yes. What's about that journey? How did you become that completely responsive educator? Okay, so my journey with Ubuntu started in early 2000. I was a public school teacher. At this time I was in the state of Florida, first time teaching, and within about my 4th year of teaching, a professor in research and study in South Africa, into observing and teaching, and left the note on our desk. We teach in the spirit of Ubuntu. Absolutely no one of the. And so I went on a journey. I wanted to know what did we see? What were the pedagogical moves I was making in the class? I was to say that you teach in the spirit of Ubuntu. So I did a self-study. I also requested for the principal to transfer me with the same group of students that I experienced. And I said, study students, I decided to go to grad school. So because now I'm interested in learning to research. I completed my master's and still wanted to learn more about Ubuntu. I applied to be a US Fulbright scholar and I had an opportunity to go to New England, Botswana, and South Africa to study more about Ubuntu. And I also told my doctoral chair that I'm going to do my doctorate in Ubuntu. It was crazy. But I was able to successfully defend that work. And so Ubuntu, a humanistic approach to teaching and learning, that is how I operationalize it. It's Ubuntu pedagogy. It's a humanistic approach to teaching and learning. When we talk about the Ubuntu, I am because we are the values of empathy, care, compassion, interconnection is all within But I recognized that I was experiencing Ubuntu in online learning. We didn't call it Ubuntu, but that was Ubuntu. And so I would say Ubuntu was beginning. And it manifests our learning for that professor to be able to see it. Well, I have to make a moment. Because when I purchased the one, we were able to go to conference and that's a couple of years ago, I decided to get two copies, one for myself. Our dollars comes to the very people in so I purchased a copy. And when she read that, she said, John, this is what I'm doing with the board. That I'm doing it, I wasn't calling him. And I have to take a file grandma over. I hope no one minds me doing this, but if you're here next week, then the awards,
It's down, it's down.
It's our African Nova Scotian History Challenge.
Yeah.
Good
job.
African Nova Scotian History Challenge is that GDP it has been doing now for what, 8 years?
Yeah.
19 years.
19 years.
19 years. What else would you?
19.
Yeah.
So one of the assignments that my daughter has a ton for is we had been doing an assignment, we didn't discuss the name, but we did a multi-generation. That grandmother. So she had been doing some work on the Preston Township, although we had a mark on the visit. Because the Preston, I know it's, so we use that something. So we had to do a project on historical facts, places in the Preston Township, and then they decided to turn it into one of the history channels. They named one first place. They don't finish things. And I was just so excited for them. They're very great. Meet and but they came in first place in high school. They had a meeting. It's a bingo. But it's a bingo thing. Teachers. And I was really thinking of all kinds of things they can do, and all things that the business is doing. They could create news that they could do something more with this bingo. But it's really grounded in the wisdom teaching. So teaching those values, valuing things in the community. And I find that a lot of times young people do they don't what's happening is they're really, there's a lot of destruction. Self-destruction, there's a community destruction, there's a lot of destruction within, within our communities. There's a lot of hate, and people are turning their hate on themselves and on their friends and on their friends. I believe that the education was made grounded in thinking teachings. Maybe we see us. Yes, thank you so much for sharing a beautiful story, because when I think about African culture school and the children that were served in the community, these are children that go to high school. Those are children that go to public school from pre-K all the way to high school. So that's the range that of students that we come into a class. Parents were begging me to take a 4-year-old and to find someone to work with the littles. But yes, and so some of the things that we do in African culture school, this is Ubuntu in action. We were very intentional about teaching them what it looks like, what it sounds like in the community. We didn't have an opportunity to learn about an African ancestor. When I say African ancestor, that's someone that's made a significant contribution to the world. And so they get to study They study about Marcus Garvey. They study about something culture. They study about Celestia. They study about Martin Luther King. And we want them to make these connections to their community. So even if the exams and stuff at school, use it as a performance, they have to create a project. Project-based learning, and they have to showcase that at the end of the year. So they go from January all the way to December, and then they showcase their learning to the community. So when we talk about educating public children, you cannot expect them to do what they don't know, what it looks like. They have to model it, and they have to teach it to them. And so that was some of the things that we were doing in school to make sure that the students understand what it means to be in the community. And we also explicitly teach the 7 principles of longitude, and to have that deeper understanding of the English society and what it looks like. Because with the English society, some of the principles are reflecting on self, and then some of the principles are the community.
And that connection between self and community is so important. In fact, it can be transformative. Many scholars write about the transformative power of religion. So when you impact on your workers, can you give us some other examples of the transformative power of religion? Like the witness, what is another topic that we
I think I would say that, the first time I just wanted to approach Ubuntu. The work that I started with the Saturday school, I was in Orlando at the time, and the city of Orlando started learning about the stuff that we were doing. We're creating a nonprofit about that. And so they've extended models of that program in the schools. They have the institute, they're educating the parents and educating parents and in the community. And then we also have community members to participate and educate the parents as well. And virtually, they were from cradle to college. And so they were intentionally supporting the parents as well. And the beauty of this technical community thing, and the elders in the community will share their gift, receive Ubuntu in action. And then they will have a graduation for those fathers who completed a 6-week programs with their children. And then we share our resources, and the parent left a book to read, an African-centered book to read to their children. So that was one thing that I wanted. I was also a public school teacher at the time, and the public schools and teaching diverse groups of students. It's not just Black students are in my class. And so the principal would see the things that I'm doing in my class. My classroom became the model classroom in the school districts. So I had other teachers or principals, superintendent, deans, they will come to see the work that I'm doing in the classroom. And then the school started to adapt to the principals. So when you start walking, this is public school, you walk into the hallway and you're seeing the principals up. And we were intentional with the work that they're doing. The students are doing affirmations and rituals. These are evidence of Ubuntu in action. The other part of it that I see that is transformative is now we're moving from the classroom. And so now I'm an instructional coach, and I'm working with teachers, and we are studying Ubuntu. And I was reading, I happened to do a book study with the book on Dr. Ubuntu. We can teach if you don't know or hear about us. That is another the book I studied in my work too. And so I took the teachers to a book study. And this is where I see the transformation that is happening. And transformation is not a one and done. It's not an easy process. It's an ongoing work. It's not just going to itself. You have to first understand who you are. And then you have to go about building relationships with your students, knowing how to unify the class to work together and nurture your minds and intellect and teach them a position of love and care. And then ultimately, we
or using the data. It's also the data, it's not just the data from one and then reading, but we're looking at the data for social emotional as well. And those are the things that used to drive our instructions. So,
Probably came off the purpose of the word,
okay.
but the two words. So it was. One is being intentional and this second part of this. So I want to talk, basically talk about why it's important to be intentional. And yes, so we'll start with that. I need to be around. I'll say it over
So, being intentional with the work that you're doing. One of the things that is essential with my teachers, when we're talking about culture and culturally responsive teaching, it's not about declarations, it's about cognition. And so, when we do the things that we're doing in the classroom, we're showing represent because we see their culture represented in the curriculum, and we're utilizing the curriculum when we intentional. When we are showing the students love and creating a sense of belonging and care, when we intentional. When we're having the students do affirmations, one of the things that I have my students do every morning in my class, if you have no confidence in self, you are forced to be in the recipe. With confidence, you are one, even before you started. Those are words by Marcus Garvey. And our students chat those words every morning before we start teaching about math reading, and we set the tone of the day before we dive into the content. And so that is ways of being intentional, not being performative when I'm going to the work.
And that's that, I love that.
Yes.
You can't just be about it, so put out and moving that. Things really cool. So the other designated. Things. It's kind of consideration, I'm very confident. We do a lot of students, and so we could give us a few numbers, but I wonder if you could say that more about how it would do, and how much Spanish will be systems. But that's my experience. But I would not really well. I recently there was this week some conversation on CDC that recently all of the work that's really done to increase more tips. Program funding, involved with the universities, they will be the great one. But one thing you use to exceptionally we need to inspire how do you keep them in a system that is learning. And I think when you talk about system transformation, transforming system, I don't believe you. But I create conditions for people to be able to do it. We do the kind of innovation. So how do we get to that systemic change?
So that is not an easy answer, it's because we know that birth is complex and is multidimensional. And we are taking through the lens of organizational theory and making sure that those that are being policy understand this type of work. Reality communities is not just building money to this complex problems. We know from research that doesn't work, that level of investment, to making sure that individuals are feeling supported. This idea of making sure that we are starting from a place of shared humanity. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done around this as well. And so those of us that are in leadership and sitting at tables of decision making, we have to do that self-work. And we have to show in those spaces with our authentic voice. And so before we can get there, we have to do that collective work and collective healing. It's because we're coming from a place of lots of trauma. And a lot of times when we show up to do this work, we're getting emotional and reactionary instead of being intentional. And so that education and preparation behind the scene will go up into the spaces to speak to leadership and to making sure that we are sharing things that we know that are working and helping them to create programs that are sustainable and making sure that they're hearing the voices of the community, not just designing programs, but not taking the voices of the community, the elders, those who are being impacted by the injustice, to be able to share and be a part of that. I'm also a peace and justice training facilitator. I was trained, especially around the time the Trayvon Martin incident in the US. And so these are complex conversations. So we have opportunities where we have descendants of the Ku Klux Klans and African Americans in one space and facilitating those different conversations. And so leading those type of work, it starts with the individuals so we can be able to guide that work and support leadership and policy form or even support that change. And it's not a one done, it's an ongoing thing. I'd like to do this. And I believe that purpose. And now I kind of make sure that it went down and multi-language. You can see it. It was really in like the multi-language. I'm going to do it. As a systems, by creating those students for that. We should be looking at there and God have known saying that we as community need to start the work. We need to do the work that we can to support the ones, the pockets of those that we can support. And as we continue to advocate for the larger system, because we cannot just sit down and wait for the policy to change. The boots on the ground and the ones that are doing the work, because those of our ancestors on the shoulders, as I can say, they were doing the work. All right, now they were doing the work, and so we have to make sure that we continue to do the work. And sometimes we address the work like we're beggars. We're not beggars. We're not beggars. We're demanding what we need. And so while we're doing that, we're showcasing our excellence. We're showcasing our joy and helping our children to see that while we continue to do the work. You know, many of us are many of us have been doing the work. We haven't seen a change that you envision. You haven't seen any change in the ancestors. And very frankly, I'm talking about when you say that community, people in communities, community members, community leaders, elders, youth, parents, but some people are struggling just to get through daily. So how do you interact in a situation where there's so much struggle in the world, there's so much struggle, but yet we have this duty and responsibility to give back to our communities because when you're educated, you have responsibility to do that. Your communities, we basically need to build this in common. But it's different. So how do you navigate the spaces? Thinking Now, speaking for the collective with the doubt that I can share myself, because I've been doing that work. And we do have a list of duty and responsibility. And I stay strong to that duty and responsibility because I always look up to my ancestors and something happened in culture schools that we will never dishonor our ancestors unless it not like that. So the work, those of you who are paying attention, what's going across the water, it is a lot. And so one of the strategies that I researched I call it my ego strategy. So as an ego, a sword, I miss time. I come down to do some of the work on the ground, and I go back on the time and I rest and I develop the strategies and I go back down. It's still on the ground all day long, just collaborating, working, and not taking time to self. I also is on myself and I'm not able to give the best. So I use my ego strategies to guide me, strengthen up myself, and I come back there.
The first so so many ways. Wow. Because I just wanted to listen. I become more intentional with myself. I would say because I'm really there's someone who's confident self feeling. And so that I would get these strong accomplishments, but so be it, I have these hard accomplishments. But I'm intentional about something, and a young man to be a wonderful compliment. Oh, yeah, look pretty good. He said, I look pretty happy. I look pretty healthy, like, that's a compliment. For someone who that's what and I used to go and say, you know, we don't burn out, we recycle. We can't afford to burn out because it's what we do. At the end of the day, we burn out healthy and wrong, and we don't. So there's being intentional with something. Being intentional about us. Being intentional about giving the grace we need. That's what I use. Yes. That's what I so you're hearing this here from the people of us. You may be on to something. Maybe it's jot down here. That's yes, yes. That's what was the other beyond. That's what we just say. And it would be one of my students being there. I thought there was a lesson here.
The other book I would recommend is the Book of Joy by Archbishop Desmond Tutu about and there are some intentional mindfulness in the back of the book and things to do as well. The Book of Joy.
Oh, I saw Smokey Robinson. Now, I don't know if anyone else here is a Smokey Robinson fan, I'll just put it like that. And he's something. He does yoga. Yeah. When I heard him interview and talking about doing yoga, I thought, I want to get the 8 effort and start doing yoga. And so I now do yoga every day. And guess what? I do it twice a day. Because in the morning and at the end of the evening.
I think yoga is here.
And so finally, I think we all need to find things that help us stay. But we need to recognize that we have a responsibility to do. Because the reality is, hurt people, hurt things, hurt teachers, hurt teachers. And so how do we do, again, how do we create education? How can we move to the office? Create healthier spaces for the learning that we know we want to happen.
Ubuntu is an acronym Ubuntu is an action. And so when we talk about Ubuntu, even though it comes from a collectivist culture, it is also made place for individuals to work on self. If you feel broken and burnt out, you cannot give back to community. So you take time for self. In the classroom, I have what we call the Ubuntu reflection corner. Now students go to that. It's a safe space in the class. It is a part of how they manage themselves in the classroom as well. So if they're not feeling, they're emotional, there's something is going on, they know that you can get up on your seat to the reflection on it because they're working on self, they're really join the community. Because when students don't understand how to manage and regulate their emotions, and then I teach them this, so I don't just go to it for a corner of the time. I'm teaching explicitly about how to regulate self. And so that I want to send them to the home, they go and there's stuff in the home to help them to work on regulating themselves so that they can journey that they do. Because if they're not, there's no learning stage in this. If they're emotional and they're in this place of freeze, or they're operating for the individual about the brain that gives you emotion. They're not ready for learning. So I create that space where they can work on self and people will join that the community. I would love to see that. Thank you. I would love to see that in the classroom. So in the school district I was working, they implement that in all the elementary classrooms. And then the middle students, they have a version in the classroom as well. And that was something that started in the school district. My mom has said in her high school classroom. Oh, beautiful. And then the funny thing about it, parents have reached out to me to help them to put it up in their homes. And so, because the children at the moment talk about it, and parents have reached out to me for it. And so here again, perceive the transformation of the Ubuntu in action. I love that, Ubuntu in action. So, but that basically is notion of collective learning and leadership. How is that good? How do you see that differently? And how do you know it? That's leadership in the classroom. The collective leadership in the classroom is it. And the way that I structure the design of my classroom, I'm helping to activate the leader within. This is a classroom where my students are creating an academic safe environment where the students are learning from me and I'm learning from them. And so within that leadership dynamics in the classroom, there is, I think the day that Professor visited my classroom was a day when we saw that in action. I had a store in my classroom. There was a lot going on and I'm teaching from that store. But the students were running that store in the classroom, where doing their math, the bankers and the different stores that's in the class, and they're using their money that they gain from their self-discipline is rewarded, so they can take the money from where there was in an elementary classroom. So they use that money to operate in the classroom. So that was an example of the leadership. And what sort of thing are they buying in the school? They're buying things such as books, they're buying chairs, they're buying things that children buy. My mom was very instrumental in going to the church store and getting things before they did the store. So it was a big deal when the store is open every 2 weeks. And so that was an example of that. But in cultivating the leadership in the students, there's also books that I read to them. I also share Proverbs and utilize a lot of biblical symbols, and it gives me great joy to see the symbols around me because I teach the students explicitly what the symbols are. For example, I'm doing a symbol of education is Mate Nation, and the students will will say to me, when I'm teaching and utilizing the instructional technique, and the students will say, when I say, Natina is ready to learn, and also I utilize Pedagogy, which is self-correcting myself. Pedagogy is I'm ready to learn. Natina says, I'm here, I keep. I'm here, I keep. So when we circle around how the structure of the leadership operate in the classroom, it's really into the way that I set up the classroom and the things that I'm teaching students that have been from within, I provide the guidance. But before you can do something like that in the class, you start it yourself as an educator to examine yourself and know what type of learners you have and what type of learners you want to develop. So that's the kind of way that I approach leadership. And that was just the elementary example. You have the upper levels and the college examples as well, too. And who's going to go to higher education now? So I am a literacy professor and teach methods courses at the university and teach at a predominantly white university, the only black faculty in the College of Education. So my students that are in my class, the way that I set up the structure of my class and the design of my syllabus to the way that I open my class, university level. I'm very intentional about how we set the tone of the day before we dive into the content. So I have the very principles of how we treat each other. So I start my daily principle that they read into themselves and reflect on. I reflect on the collaboration, how we turn and talk. And so those certain principles that are coming from collaboration, performers work, encourage to teach. Those are some of the principles that I think the way that I design my class is really going to mind. I don't have to go around and say, no, this is going to go to a good. It's the way that I structure it, the way that I operate in the class. And I'm very intentional about that. In showcasing that type of work or reading that is what I do.
That's wonderful. So you're the Harrison beginnings of the next. If you believe that when it was the Harrison beginnings, I was looking at another way that our movies have a lot of symbols have. What's on the into that? Yes. I think to start with that, I would say that I'm going into the community first to learn about Ubuntu in the context of Nova Scotia and understand the way I see examples of Ubuntu. Because context is important for you. I have the opportunity to be out in Africa. So much example is powerful. Evidence is powerful. Ubuntu is evidence in fact, community, and the things, the small amount of things that I've learned so far. So I was looking for different examples of how I'm seeing Ubuntu instruction here in Nova Scotia. And so my design of my lectures and the work that I'm going to be doing with the teachers in collaboration with Dr. Kessler and Dr. Martin. I was very intentional, not just coming as an outsider. Oh, this is what I'm going to do. I hear the collective voices, and then I'm designing my course in terms of how I'm doing it. Because I want to see examples of the region and how to once understand the method pockets of that problem. Because even when I started, and I just need to share this piece,
when I went to the in Swan, I wanted to see examples of the into the source of how no, it's just a concept, they don't really teach it explicitly in any section of Botswana that explicitly teach it in the more curriculum. But I saw so many evidence and documented so many evidence of it all over the country. So those are like my way of operating, and then utilizing the Ubuntu as a framework in how operate. When we're doing things for transport or transformation, we have to start in the framework. So Ubuntu is the framework the grounding of that do.
So tell me, that's been very, very, inspiring and feel faculty and really like sorts and application years of time. What connections interesting with happening in social communities and physical practice? Yeah. And I think you the visited happen. Because we go through it action. And we see the administration, we see similar things. Basically, in the application.
Yes, and to answer it, yes and yes. I think the first one, the see, so when I'm in like Southern Africa, they would greet you salutation. It's not just like the morning, I see you. I see you. When I went into Africa, I was today to the museum. That's how I felt. Sister Beatrice, she greeted me, and it's like, I see you. I welcome you. It's not that you have to know who I am and all my credentials. So just the common decency to say, I see you. And so that is one of the first example as I saw just, I see you. And that is something that is as simple as that is to get in action. Even simple good morning. And acknowledging the person that is going to in action. That I see you, I validate and confirm you in this space right now.
I want to have a confidence for that when we just want to start as what are some of those moments what really stands out as a critical and now it's all people
I'm saying on the lifelong learning is how to sort of help finish here. When I started teaching, my first year of teaching with the SOLA, I was demoted. I was removed from the classroom. They took my teaching salary and moved me to another professional position for 6 weeks. There's a longer story to that. But I stayed learning, and what changed that trajectory? The new principal that came on board, everyone that's been leadership, that was done, that was a legal move from that principal. So she got fired 6 weeks later, and I was reinstated. But the new principal sent me to a training in culturally responsive classroom management training. And that training changed the trajectory of my teaching. It showed me that I was operating from a deficit mindset, and I wasn't seeing the asset the students were bringing to the class. And the principal that devoted me, she said, well, back then, we can know how to teach back kids. I was doing something new. Didn't get that foundation in my teacher preparation program. I learned nothing about cultural responsive teaching in my teacher preparation program. So this was, it didn't started by just ready to teach and learn all of this. It was an investment into starting opening up my understanding about culturally responsive teaching. And then I continue to read books and attend seminars and continue my own personal learning. And I love learning. I know that not all folks are like that. I get really excited and I love to learn and I love to grow and implement that and working with children. I love to see the light turn on them and trying something new with that. So I continue to invest in self and growing and learning. And I encourage everyone to do it. Work on self, continue to grow, learn, and also be a researcher. And it doesn't matter if you're about AI, I encourage you to be literate, because that is going to change another way that is going to turn education upside down. So make sure that you are literate, and even for community, this is impacting us in all the ways that we have. Yes, it is.
So number one, if you want to read this audience with one very impactful message, not to that would inspire us to want to become an educator for this time. What would that? So, when we talk about one story, Ubuntu responsive education, at the intersection of both of the focus, quality and understanding of style. Take that time to explore yourself, but also encourage those of you that engage in this work. Make sure that you're keeping that time for self-care so that you can also be the best version of yourself to go on the battle here and do this work. And as a song of lift every voice and sing, we can keep marching on until victory is won. So we have a duty and responsibility not to give up. Our ancestors and pass the baton to us. We need to continue to do the work until it's our time to go to see it. Thank you. So if you have some, wondering what stories you carry with you. And which of these stories might find available in one of them.
The stories of the people that find their way into the teachings is the story that the people in African that sense of community, that resilience, that resistance, that all of the love. And the other story I believe will probably to in my teaching and in my books, is that there's not a single spirit, and we have to be cautious of those single stories, those single narratives. And so these are the things that I think about and it gives me hope. It gives me joy to see the work that we invested in. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you for doing this work, because this example, this model, how to be taken and showing up these spaces and sharing these type of work And the data is doing that, so. Yes.
Thank you so much. It's been absolutely. We have to honestly. And all of the company sitting. These people work crazy. But you put a lot of. Please, that's with, Dr. Lockwood. Outstanding. Let's make this one of the choices. Yeah. Thank you. I ended that with the lines. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time and your sharing the stories and the students. It's really appreciated. I would like to invite Dominique. And Dominique, you want to introduce yourself? I understand I'm not the way back and super excited to have you for us this evening. So please come on up and down. Thank you. So I know Susie actually since I was 10, when I performed for the first time, at the airline girls conference that was in my secret. I am so grateful. I was employed from 2023 to 2021. I enjoy doing creative things, making art, painting, musical, things like that, all that stuff, singing. I'm an expert and I'm very good. So I'm going to be sharing a poem that is inspired by these conversations. It was asked to write about Ubuntu. I like to screen it. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I also want to thank the speakers, Dr. Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard and Dr. Blackwood. At the beginning of the poem, I actually had a stanza that was actually talking about Salomona, but I was second guessing it, so I took it out when I was overthinking the poem to make sure that it's right. But I just wanted to also mention that because when you said it, I was like, oh my gosh, wow. Oh, I should have kept it in. So here is my poem with Ubuntu is. Oh, also there's a part where I say Ubuntu is, and I'm going to look at you and look at you or anything like that. And if you want to use your familiar what Ubuntu is. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright. Ubuntu is the love for humanity that connects us all. Ubuntu is not just the skin you carry, but the soul behind your smile. It's the stories etched in the creases around your eyes, the generations within you, and the ancestors before you. Ubuntu is you. Ubuntu is I am because you are. No separation, no division. It is the essence of being human, a harmony rooted in the collective, in the sharing of space, and the beauty of gentle reoccurrences. Ubuntu is
Straight from the heart.
Ubuntu is a helping hand. That's the one that reaches out, that helps those who might fall through the cracks. Ubuntu is a collective heartbeat that reminds us to check for one another. Ubuntu is creating. Ubuntu is in your reflection, in the eyes before me. I see myself reflected, knowing that without you there is no I. Ubuntu is love. Ubuntu is vital. In a world that tries to make us forget interconnectedness, that strives to find division, pain, and hate. Rather than unity, healing, and love, we must allow Ubuntu to call us back into the arms of freedom. Ubuntu is a love for humanity that connects us all. Ubuntu is not just the skin you carry, but the soul behind your smile. And the stories etched in the creases around your eyes, the generations within you, and the ancestors before you.
Ubuntu is.
Right.
Ubuntu is. Thank you so much. Every time, when I was coming here in the car, I was thinking about, this poem that I wrote. It kind of like connects that to me with Ubuntu. It talks about unity of people. And I thought I'd share it. Are you guys down for this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I often sing before my poems, but I couldn't think of a song before this one. So I'm gonna sing a song that I usually sing. I've sang before. You guys are familiar with it? If you sing before. And it's Yoruba, and it is about a dove who is settled on a house as the sun rises. Ojúmọ́ ti mọ́, ojúmọ́ ti mọ́ mi nílé yìí o. Ojúmọ́ ti mọ́, mo ríre o. Ojúmọ́ ti mọ́, ojúmọ́ ti mọ́ mi nílé yìí o. Ojúmọ́ ti mọ́. Morire o, ada. Okay. Wá balẹ̀ mi o, ojúmọ́ ti mọ́, morire o. There is unity in people gathered together in the group. In the way that the same group will never be in the same place at the same time, in the same way again. There's unity in the way that we change every day. No one is ever the same. We wake up the next morning and change. There's unity in land back, in the reclaiming, in the finding of what was lost, in the healing of the roots that caused pain. There's unity in struggle. In the way that hands clasped and shared, knowing there is unity in anti-war. In the yearning for peace and freedom, there's unity in grief. When you sit hand in hand with another that has lost a beloved, there is unity in heartbreak. In the way that we all feel it, there is unity in pain. In a way that it hurts so much you can't explain it, there is unity found in ecosystems. From spiders to bugs, moths, and bees, there is unity in what surrounds us. From light to birth to death to decomposition and darkness. There is unity in falling apart, piece by piece, like breaking glass. There is unity in joining together beautifully, gathered up like the stained glass. There is unity in both the end and the beginning, how they converge despite what comes in between. There is unity in nostalgia, in a collective way that we remember what was. There is unity in the way that we are all slowly dying. Everything around us too, there is unity in sorrow, felt so deeply. There is unity in the light within us, shining radiantly. There is unity in the things that we tend to, like the flowers and the gardens and the people we care for. There is unity in love. There is unity in human connections and the shared smiles and knowing looks. There is unity in longing, the longing to change the world. No, we can only touch what we can reach, and even then, when the world ends, we can't save everything. There is unity in the quiet moments, in the whispers of the night. There is unity in the stories we share to show segments of ourselves. There is unity in the memories we make and the echoes they leave behind. There is unity in the future and the dreams we build upon. There is unity in every sunrise. In the hope that each one brings, there is unity in every breath. In the way that no inhale is ever the same. There is unity in all our imperfections, in the ways we try and fail. There is unity in the journey and the stories we build in there. There is unity in a belief in God, the universe, or nothing at all. There is unity in the fragile moments. Moments you'd rather they not see. There is unity in our existence, in the shared pursuit of light in the blank. Because of this unity, we must try and share with and care for one another, hear each other, feel for each other, and let compassion be our life. There is unity when people gather together in a room. In the way the same group can never be in the same place at the same time, in the same way. Oh, Jumatima, oh, Jumatima, me, you, Jumatima, no, you, oh, Jumatima, oh, Jumatima, me, yo, oh, Jumatima. No, you okay, okay, okay. Wow, but then no,
So I was sitting in front and then the speaker caught my eyes. And it reminded me of high school, we had an image of the president as we go to school. And his eyes was always looking at you, no matter where you go. I just want to be good. And the principal would say, the president is watching you, and whatever it is. So I looked at this image and it's almost like. So I said that to draw our attention to the artists that performed throughout this, and the stories that were told. You know, we started with came for the drawing. Well, we got story on top of it. We came to spoken word and we got a song on top of it. Right? So at the beginning you had this note card and you had your intentions to this. And so what we're asking you to do is to write what else we got from it. Right? So on the backside, if you haven't had a chance to write yet, you shouldn't have. Yes. Now is a good chance to write. And I'm quite okay with you writing what I thought. Because I also looked at the time. And I'm cognizant of the people, the fact that there were people who were here since like since I thought at the time they weren't here. Since about 8 o'clock this morning, the people were here setting up, and there were folks who were here way before that, working on getting this program together for us. If you've been here throughout the day, you know how beautiful this morning was. I want to thank you for being here throughout the day with us. But we do need to acknowledge that they're still around, and I'm thankful for those who stuck around. There are some who left earlier. There's a team who worked tirelessly to put together this program for us. And I'd ask you to just give them a round of applause. But if you didn't know what I'm doing here, I think I'm doing the acknowledgement or something like that.
I'm talking after you.
But if you were here this morning, I got called out to do something, and I gave you half of my acknowledgement this morning, so you're not gonna get all of it tonight. But throughout the conversation, we had the two speakers, or the speaker and the interviewer, who shared their experience on Ubuntu. I'm sure that many of you have heard the word before, heard the terms before, and you can connect with it. One of the things that I'm always reminded of, one of the things I'm taking away from this is that many of us have been doing Ubuntu before we got to know the word Ubuntu.
before we got to know what it feels like, before we felt it, or before we even had the opportunity to say it to someone else. All right, so I want you to leave here with that same spirit of knowledge that you had prior to hearing these words. To understand what you've learned here tonight from the speakers. You know, I'm taking away, and not one Thomas Bernard is not here, but I took away that she moved on from being a recovering workaholic to actually doing something about it. I actually got that term from her some time ago, and I am stuck in that recovering workaholic phase, but she moved on to yoga. So, you know, I'm learning that burning ourselves out when there's a community around us to make things happen, right? Ubuntu, where we can rely on the strength of each other. We can look at someone and say, I am able because you are. I think it's Luparo who talks about his greetings in Zimbabwe, where someone asks, how are you today? And the answer is, I'm okay. That's how we stop in Canada. In Zimbabwe, only if you're okay. So if you're not feeling good, I'm not going to be feeling good until you feel good. So hurry up. And you know, the South African greetings, how honor, where you meet someone and you greet them. Hey, I see you. I see you. Right? It's different from what I experienced when I came here. Someone says, hey, how is your day? And you're like, what, I'm back at last. And before you said that, so the answer I learned is good. How was your day? Good. So, all right. So even if you're not good, you just say it. But so with this Ubuntu mindset and Ubuntu spirit, I hope that we will walk away from here knowing that we are beyond good. Right? We are beyond just seeing someone who is struggling and walking away from them. The Preston way of showing Ubuntu is making sure that they know that they see you. You go through, throughout Nova Scotia. And when you go to Toronto, they're like, this crazy, that person, why are they waiting? Right? The Nova Scotian way is, hey, I see you. Without even saying it, I see you. So we have been doing Ubuntu for a long time. Don't believe it for all. Just go on with it. Friend, know what's going on. But, you know, we have been doing this, and, you know, we are taking away a lot from this space today. In all seriousness, I do see the work that was done, the fact that you're all in here and no one is nodding or saying and looking at their clock or so on. You want to learn, right? And it's not from a perspective of you had nothing when you came in. You also want to teach. I looked at the conversation and I heard some of the conversations that were being done in the hallways there, and you see and you hear people are sharing and learning from each other. So with all of that, I want to thank the for putting on this event. There are many others like this in the city. I'm not going to pretend as if the BBI is at that level where no one else is doing anything like this. There are many others, right? Being these kinds of conversations, contribute, learn, we share, but sometimes just host our own events like these. Take away what we've learned here to our communities, to our spaces, and help someone else to learn what we have. We'll do this, I've said several times, Ubuntu is such an awesome thing why haven't it taken the way it's supposed to? I mean, not from a position where we just say and walk away, right? We spend time to understand what it really means as Dr. Rocky is talking about what we've done in her class. Where we spend time to understand the people around you, the more we spend time to understand who you are, so you can make a better contribution to the conversation and the community that you're from. Well, thank you all for coming out tonight and our talk. So we will be spun over to the one.
Appreciation for people's presence in this space and the energy that has been felt and the contributions that have been here all day. I hope that what has happened earlier in the day is still lingering in the space and please somebody kind of cleaning and helping you. So I want to signal that we would like to of everybody here all together gathered. I want to clearly kind of try to say we're serious about the issue. Okay? Which means, don't be afraid to say you can get in place, you can have a smile, choose whatever angle you like, right? And have other help us do that. So I want to say that. Can I echo again, thank you, Dr. Casey, would you please stand up?
Yeah.
And come on, can I say you can sit there? And I kind of really bring in the experience that you've really been a leader in helping us to create. So thank you very much for that. I know you'll acknowledge the team that's there, and so I recognize that with you, but I think what we've heard in conversations today, this is not kind of an either or, it's a multi-thing happening, and so your contribution to leadership here with DLI, Operation Cascadia, we're not initiating. But I also think one more thing I want to do. So we have had multiple birthdays this month for folks in our staff and our staff team. So I want to acknowledge that we're not here to do something one day, right? But we have someone that I heard tonight who has a birthday, who is an elder connect support, an individual who came to watch our workshops and always engaged in work. And Josie? Yes. There's more things to and so that's what I'm saying as well. I feel like this karaoke might be doing that an opportunity. But I just want to say we want to sing happy birthday. And I think it's important to never know what I like. You know, maybe make less. So who's going to be that? The next girl off and we're going to talk it together. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
I never heard you hear anything. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. I think that's given us also time to be ready for the photo occasion.
Well, That's me and you, Bill. I know we're not trying to. Sorry, I'm not trying to call How are you?
I whistle very loud. You wouldn't hear me. Thank you. Yes, yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Oh, here over here. Going on here. What I'm wondering is what I need is a group of individuals, volunteer individuals, feel sturdy and safe enough to stand on a chair. Okay, I'm just gonna explain how it's gonna work. We're gonna have three rows of people. One row in the very back, standing on chairs like this. Side by side. Yep. If you're not tall, you're great. We're gonna keep tall. We're going to keep tall. Then go back in one of these.
Yeah, you want to stack a couple of these chairs and we're gonna move to that section. We're gonna go stand on.